Hello there, and welcome back to Hydroponics Daily, your go-to podcast for everything soilless cultivation. I am your host, Dr. Russell Sharp, the founder of Utrema Limited. And one of the things I wanted to talk about today was one of these hacks that you often see on Facebook on obscure horticultural gardening groups, and that is cut and come again vegetables. The most extreme case is where someone's harvested a leek and kept the bottom section where the roots were cut off, or the bottom of an onion, and said, look, I replanted this in a glass beaker and it's grown again and I can get a second crop from it. And celery as well, when you've cut a celery off, if you keep the base, you can get a new crop. And it's absolute nonsense because the second regrowth won't produce anywhere near as good a crop as the first one, and which was probably grown in soil. And then trying to grow it hydroponically in a beaker in the sort of cracky method is a bit ridiculous. So cut and come again vegetables are very specific, and there are a few crops where you can do it. Leafy greens, lettuce, but only the loose leaf type of lettuce. They're the only type that you can do. Spinach, arugula, coriander. Is that coriander in the UK? Mizuno, pak choi, kale, chard, and mustard greens. They're the main ones. Basil, parsley, cilantro, or coriander in the UK. I don't know what arugula is. Don't know what we call arugula in the UK. Chives are a great example of a cut and come again vegetable. Mint to some extent. They're your main ones, and they can be grown commercially as cut and come again. But your closed head lettuce, they can't ever be cut and come again. So people showing you that on Facebook are talking nonsense. Chive can, because chive's a perennial crop, and so it's designed to be cut and come again. And thyme, again, if you don't cut that, then it just gets too woody. Often see people say, look at this, like patio, like slabs of walking slabs, and then in between it they've grown thyme, and they've said, look, it's like a lawn, but you don't even need to mow it or prune it. I'm thinking thyme is the one crop where you really do need to cut it, otherwise it gets woody and just gets too out of control. Some microgreens you can get a second crop of, so alfalfa, clover, ryegrass, fescue. Spring onions, I've seen it. I've seen a lot of Indian growers trying to get a second crop of spring onions, but then that's only the green parts of the spring onions. The white bit, which we eat, certainly in the UK, scallions as you call them in America, you wouldn't have a double crop because they would look unsightly. So, yeah, I think there's a real issue there, is the second crop has got to be economically viable. And for some small growers, the herb market, salad greens, then the second growth could be worth it. But for large-scale growers looking for vegetables like onions, iceberg lettuce, cabbages, cauliflower, the second cut yields are small, inconsistent, and unmarketable. So you just wouldn't do it. Some crops like hops, you can get hop asparagus, which is the most expensive vegetable in the world. The second growth is so weak that you can't actually get a second viable crop, even of the flowers on that. And sticking in the cannabis family, you can rejuvenate cannabis plants once they've flowered in the legal cannabis sector. However, that's more for conserving genetics and phenotypes than it is for an actual second crop. You're far better off starting again with fresh cuttings or fresh seed than actually trying to rejuvenate, because then you get issues with the regrowth's not as good, it's stunted, the growing media is tired, there'll be pest and disease issues, and uniformity. And uniformity is key in all crops, and the second crop, crucially, will be completely ununiform. So if you want a uniform crop, which most commercial growers do, then it's pretty useless. You can get a second crop of tomatoes. You can cut a tomato stem down, but you won't get anywhere near the vigor you did of the first stem as well. So you don't see commercial growers doing that. They just lay the stem down and continually lay it down and down and down and down until it's a really long stem in a grow greenhouse that's been growing for 11 months and so definitely don't want to do that. Cut the tomato plant down. So what else can we say about cut and come again vegetables? There is some other options. I guess you could say that rose crops, if you cut the dead heads off, then they will produce more flowers because the the fruit that are developing, the rose hips, they're producing inhibitors of flowering, which prevent more flowers from forming. And so you can get more flowers on your rose plants if you deadhead them. So that's almost like a cut and come again. However, that's not for cut flowers because you always remove the flower when it comes to cut flowers anyway. So if you see any of these posts on Facebook, just ignore them. You'll see normally like a lettuce or a celery, normally a celery or an onion or a leek plant in a beaker and with some water or some fertigation solution, and someone saying, look, this hack they don't want you to know about will allow you to get a second crop of all the vegetables you buy in the supermarket. And then we're starting to see AI images as well of people cutting over tomato plants and getting tomato plants coming out of them. Again, this is a bit nonsense unless you've got a very strange viviparous tomato variety. So always start, if it's most herbs, vegetables, you start with fresh plants, fresh seed or fresh starting material rather than trying to harvest it. Same with potatoes. You would probably want fresh seed potatoes rather than supermarket bought ones. You can take a small section of a potato and grow a new plant from it, but you're better off planting a whole seed potato. Okay, so that's been Hydroponics Daily for today. The very restricted use of cut and come again vegetables and the don't believe the hype when it comes to social media. That's been Hydroponics Daily for today. One for the amateurs or the people who are new to hydroponics. If you found it useful, then please do like the podcast, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and make sure you check out utrema.co.uk for all your interesting fertilizers, novel biostimulants, and organic biopesticides. And if you can't spell Utrema, it's Latin for wasabi. Utrema is the company that I own, and all the products on there are completely unique, invented by me, a unique technology. All right, until tomorrow, thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.